Good afternoon and welcome to the June 18th, 2025 City of Salinas Planning Commission meeting. I'll now call the meeting to order and lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Zoom webinar participation is available for members of the public. The Zoom webinar ID and link are available on the posted agenda on the city website. Can we please have roll call?
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Present.
Commissioner Monzalarios.
Present.
Commissioner Meeks.
Present.
Commissioner Ruck.
Present.
Commissioner Purnell. Commissioner Rocamora.
Here.
Chairperson McKelvey Day.
Here. Staff introductions?
Myra Robles, Administrative Aide.
Courtney Grossman, Planning Manager.
Tom Weil, Senior Planner.
Robert Latino, Associate Planner.
Lisa Brinton, Community Development Director.
Chris Callahan, City Attorney.
Welcome, everyone. And now we will move into general public comments. Public comments generally are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. The chair may further limit the time for public comments depending on the agenda schedule. Are there any comments from the public regarding items not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, do we have any raised hand features in the Zoom?
No.
Okay, so we'll move along to consent ID number 25-241, approval of minutes from the June 4th, 2025 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Rocamora?
No comment.
Commissioner Ruck?
No comment.
Commissioner Almanza Larios?
No comments.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
No comment.
Commissioner Meeks?
No questions.
Commissioner Purnell?
No comments.
And I have no questions or comments. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second.
With a motion from Commissioner Meeks and a second from Commissioner Purnell, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Rocamora.
Yes.
Commissioner Ruck.
Yes.
Commissioner Monzalarios.
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Yes.
Commissioner Meeks.
Yes.
Commissioner Purnell.
Yes.
Chairperson McKelvey Day.
Yes.
Motion
And
passes.
so the minutes passes. The public hearings we have next, and that's ID number 25-213, time extension 2025-003, a request to recommend City Council approval of a one-year time extension to tentative map 2019-002, which consists of a subdivision of a 7.74 acre lot into 37 lots with alternative street sections and street frontage designed for interior roadways located at 11th Hill Circle in the residential low-density airport overlay, flood overlay, R-L-5.5-AR-F zoning district. Thomas Weil, Senior Planner, will present this item.
Thank you very much, Chairperson McKelvey Day, Commissioners. The proposal is done by applicant John Filiguera and Associates Incorporated. Let's see if I get the next slide. There we go. Thank you. The applicant is John Filiguera and Associates Incorporated. The property owner is Euphoric Investments, a limited liability corporation. The proposal is for a one-year time extension to tentative map 2019-002, which was approved to subdivide a 7.74 acre lot into 37 single-family dwelling units. It was approved along with a mitigated negative declaration with a mitigated monitoring reporting program, and located on the property shown here at 11 Hill Circle. The site is stated as own residential low density in the airport overlay, flood overlay, surrounding uses of residential and open space. The tentative map to 2019-02 was approved by the City Council back on April the 13th, 2021, along with Planning and Development Permit 2019-01, which also would be subject to a time extension. Both the PUD was approved with alternative development standards for alternative street sections and street frontage design for interior roadways. The planning and development permit can be extended administratively by the city planner. However, both the PUD and the tentative map are required for the project to proceed. There is currently a final map in process, and there was 2 time extensions previously approved for the site back on April the 10th, 2023 and April the 19th, 2024. There is per the subdivision ordinance, Chapter 31 of the Municipal Code, there is a maximum 5-year time extension for the tentative maps. Since it was approved back on April the 13th, 2021, the 5-year time frame ends on April the 13th, 2026. If the tentative map is not, if the terms and conditions have not approved or completed by April 13th, 2026, the tentative map will expire, and the applicant or successor in interest would need to apply for a brand new PUD and tentative map applications. Staff therefore recommends that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve a 1-year time extension, tentative map 2019-02 to April 13th, 2026. Staff is tentatively looking at scheduling this for City Council consideration on August the 12th, 2025. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
Are there any questions from the commissioners to Mr. Wiles or other members of city staff regarding this presentation? Commissioner Rocamora?
No questions.
Commissioner Ruck?
I do have a question. So it's a maximum of 5 years,
5 years.
under your ordinance, and that's it, refile.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Any questions, Almanza Larios?
Just to clarify that it's going to be prioritized then to use that lot for the family dwellings? Or
The lot was approved for 37 single-family dwelling units. And so it's both a planned unit development permit for with alternative development standards and also a tentative map to subdivide the property.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Gutierrez?
Oh, yeah. So it looks like the last 2 times that this was, the application was received for extension was due to some more work that needed to be done with the Fish and Wildlife. Do we know where that's at now? Is that all taken care of? Is that
They're
all?
currently working on that. This last time was because the applicant had injury, so
Yeah.
they've applied for it. But they've been, according to the applicant, they've been working on it, and they're also, well, the meeting is Zoom, so they may be able to answer any additional questions on that.
Okay.
Any questions, Commissioner Meeks?
Mr. Wiles, define for me where it's here, it says common area.
The common area for,
There's 1 lot, common area.
it would be for the, let me see. I think for the common area, that would be for the areas of the lot that are not subdividable, that are not subdivided.
Maybe I could take a shot at that one, Tom. I think what is referred to as those areas which would not be owned by a single individual, but in common by the association of the entire subdivision. There are many trails and creeks and outdoor areas that are part of this project.
Seems to me when we approved this the first time with the Planning Commission that we levied the condition that that 1 common area be a park for the children.
I think there is an open space plan with amenities, and I believe that is one of the conditions of the project.
So does that still stands? It'll be a park or play area?
The request for a time extension does not change any of the conditions that were originally applied to the project back in the original approval.
Okay, I was just wondering why you didn't state that in the paperwork here, that it was a play area. Anyway, the other thing I guess is more appropriate for the petitioner, and I'm wondering how long the build-out would be on this.
That would probably need to be deferred to the applicant as far as what their timeline is for construction. But they do have to get everything complete by the
Okay,
next
thank
day.
you. I'll bring that up then. Thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Purnell?
Mr. Wells, you had, it's 37 single-family homes?
Yes.
How many of them are going to fall under like affordable housing guidelines? Is there a percentage of those units that are going to be allocated for folks who meet the income
Let me
guidelines?
see here. They do have to have,
But here in our packet, it says 3. Is that the minimum?
33, yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, minimum of 3.
Is there a percentage that's in like city code, or is it just at the discretion of the developer?
Well, it would have to be in compliance with the city's affordable housing.
Okay.
Okay.
And what is that percentage?
Well, while Tom looks for that, keep in mind, this project was approved back, what, four some odd years ago? So the requirements that were in effect at that time, which I believe are the same today, were applied to this particular project.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I just have a question about, so with, from staff, what is the general consensus as far as, I'm assuming if you're recommending that 1 year is enough to complete what they need to complete?
Well, that's what they have to complete, that, because it's per the subdivision ordinance, they have to have everything done within 5 years of the approval, of the original approval.
I guess my question is more so like, for example, if we said, okay, yes, give them another year, or would they be better off us saying, no, don't give them another year and make them reapply so that they have another 5-year? I mean, wouldn't that potentially be the scenario?
Well, I think, as far as, they've applied for a time extension to April of next year, so it'd be up to them to comply with all the terms and conditions of both the PUD, which is related to it, and incentive map.
So with what's left, I guess that's what I'm trying to ask, like what is, would an applicant typically get that all done in a year? What's remaining?
I'll take a shot at this one, Tom. So the developer's been working on this for quite some time. I think funding has been a challenge. Getting through the final map process requires payment of bonds, preparation of improvement plans, and as we heard, there were some concerns with federal regulations involving fish and game and whatnot. I think the applicant is getting closer, but perhaps this is a good question for the applicant. If the Planning Commission decides to recommend denial and it goes on to council with denial, then the council will be looking at the same question. But if the decision is yes to the time extension, then the applicant has the ability to pull this off in this last year. But if the answer is no, then the applicant would have to start all over, which could potentially delay 37 new housing units in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just also go back, there are 3 units, inclusionary median income, as per the requirements back in 2021.
Okay, thank you for answering that. So next we'll open up to public comment. Are there any comments from the public regarding this item? Anything want to be said by the applicant? No? Okay.
I don't see the raised hand.
Excuse me?
I don't see a raised hand from the
Okay.
applicant.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to ask for the Zoom. It's new for us. So are there any additional questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Rockamora?
No additional comments or questions.
Commissioner Ruck?
Yeah, actually, I have a comment. I actually wish that you could get a longer time extension. Final maps are brutal at times, especially when you're dealing with Fish and Wildlife and Army Corps of Engineers and all of those other isms. Yeah, I wish you luck in getting this done, and I wish you could get an extra year out of this, even more than 1 year. We need housing desperately.
Commissioner Almanza Larios?
No comments.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Questions and comment?
Commissioner Meeks?
Yes, like I said, I have a question for the petitioner, and that's how long is the build-out? How long will it take you to complete this
I
project?
don't think they're here.
Okay. Made my decision.
They're on Zoom. Mr. Filigaro, would you like to unmute yourself? Mr. Filiguera? No.
Okay, are you satisfied with no response? Or do you have other questions?
Well, I'm not satisfied with that's, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're having technical difficulties, Commissioner Meeks, but we can follow up with the applicant and get that information to you and the rest of the commissioners, just so you have that information.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Purnell?
No questions or comments.
And I have no questions or comments. Would any of the commissioners like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution finding the project consistent with the mitigated neg deck approved in City Council on April 13th, 2021, affirming the findings and approving a third one-year time extension of the tentative map 2019-002.
I'll second.
With a motion from Commissioner Ruck and a second from Commissioner Rockamora, we will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Rocamora?
Yes.
Commissioner Rook?
Yes.
Commissioner Monzalarios?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes.
Commissioner Meeks?
Yes, with concerns.
Commissioner Purnell?
Yes.
Chairperson McKelvey Day?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So, time extension 2025-003, time extension, sorry, it's repeating it, extension 2025-003, a request to recommend City Council approval of a one-year time extension to tentative map 2019-002, which consists of a subdivision of a 7.74 acre lot with 37 units with alternative street sections and street frontage designed for interior roadways located at 11 Hill Circle in the residential, low-density, airport overlay, flood overlay, R-L-5.5-AR-F zoning district. The Planning Commission's action on this item is a recommendation to the City Council in support of the request for a time extension. Staff will schedule the matter for the City Council's consideration, at which time a final decision will be made. And next, we have ID number 25-222, conditional use permit 2022-053, a request to construct a 1,642 square foot minor vehicle repair building with alternative means of compliance for landscaping located at 219 West Market Street in the MAF Mixed Arterial Frontage Zoning District recommendation, approve a resolution finding the project exempt pursuant to section 15332 of the CEQA guidelines, confirming the findings and approving conditional use permit 2022-053. Robert Latino, Associate Planner, will present this item.
Thank you, Chairperson McKelvey Day and Commissioners. As described before, conditional use permit 2022-053 is in front of you today for consideration. The applicant architect is David Elliott, and he has been working with the property owner and potential business operator at the subject site, Rafael Terrazas. Project, as mentioned before, is to construct a minor vehicle repair building. There is a request for alternative means of compliance for landscaping. The city planning staff sent out a notice of intent to approve back on May 19th. And on the 10th and final day, we received a notice of protest via email on May 29th. With the protest, conditional use permit cannot be administratively approved, and therefore it's brought to Planning Commission for your guys' consideration. The subject site has been vacant since 1990, since the demolition of an existing single-family dwelling. The subject use that's being proposed, the minor vehicle repair, is subject to a conditional use permit. It is proposed tire shop. The zoning is mixed arterial frontage, and so are the two adjacent lots to the left and right of it. Surrounding uses are mixed use residential, and there's a major vehicle repair adjacent to it on the left-hand side. Quick discussion on the zoning and development standards. The building, as required by the base district design guidelines, is sited along the street with its main entrance oriented towards the street with an awning. In accordance with the zoning code, rooftop equipment is screened with a parapet wall. The southerly property line is a residential district, so it requires an 8-foot-high wall. There's a compliant new parking lot consisting of 7 spaces and a new solid waste and trash enclosure, and the requirement for colored texture pavement, 10 feet on the entrance and exit of the property. As mentioned before, there's also a request for alternative means of compliance for landscaping. There's a standard that you have a landscape island for every 5 parking spaces, a full landscape island. And to achieve the compliance, they can't meet that because they're trying to add a trash enclosure and other items. So they are providing 7 trees throughout the parking lot. And site landscaping is proposed at 17.5% and the parking lot at 36.5%, which is well above the average of the 5% required. On the May 29th protest email received by the city, a lot of the concerns that came up were in regards to air quality, noise, street parking, not on-site parking, a non-residential use, an unauthorized landscaping business before, and the yard waste and trash dumping. To kind of address the last two, the landscaping business, that was resolved through a code case that ended in 2009, and yard waste and trash dumping was a code case as well that got resolved in 2011. And any future development was required to provide a geotechnical report for the construction of the building. The subject zoning district does allow for residential uses, or commercial uses and residential uses. Commercial uses subject to a conditional use permit. Street parking, West Market Street is a Caltrans right-of-way, so there is no city jurisdiction. And with the approval of the site, they're building a compliant driveway entrance and doesn't afford any room to actually provide on-street parking in front of the site. Noise and air quality, the subject use is subject to we have performance standards in regards to noise at property lines. There's a maximum 65 decibels at property lines in the subject zoning district. And their operating hours are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and in all vehicle repair within the city has to be operated indoors as well. So that would alleviate a lot of the potential concerns. So with that, its staff recommendation is for the commission to approve a resolution finding the project exempt pursuant to section 15332 of the CEQA guidelines, affirm the findings and approve the conditional use permit. Any questions of staff?
Are there any questions from the commissioners to Mr. Latino or other members of city staff regarding this presentation? Commissioner Ruck?
I have some questions about these fees. Are these standard development fees for the city?
Yeah, that'd be a question for our engineering department, but it's probably per the traffic fee ordinance is my assumption.
$43,000. Wow, okay, but they're standard fees. Does nothing, these are standard? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rockamora?
Apparently, this is not your first business, right? You have other businesses that you do and doing the same thing, correct?
We'll call the applicant up during public comment,
Okay.
and then you can direct your comments to them at
Okay.
that time.
So no questions until I talk to them.
Commissioner Almanza Larios?
No questions.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yeah, I was actually out there earlier today, and I noticed right where the driveway entrance is proposed to be, there's a tree. There's that tree gonna have to come down, and then there's also so it's a very narrow space. There is a PG&E pole that's right there, and then the tree. I mean, how is that gonna get addressed, or what's the plan there?
I believe the one existing driveway is going to be removed and replaced with full height curb and gutter. And then
I
they're
measure,
actually,
I measure 48 feet wide on the kind of, kind of with my phone. And it just didn't add up on the numbers to me without having to remove that. Well, the tree is going to have to go. That's regardless because it's right in the middle of the lot. But then that pole, the PG&E pole there, I don't know how that's going to work as far as visibility to pulling in and out of that driveway with that pole there. I do know that, like you said, it's Caltrans, and they have their own set of rules there when it comes to their sidewalks and stuff. But yeah, I'm just concerned about that, those two things. And then also, I mean, like you addressed here, but the noise complaint, the noise portion of it, some of the neighbors there did voice their concerns regarding the pneumatic guns, for the tire shop and stuff, how noisy they are, and being that right next door, the property next door is the property line is right up to the property. There's no setback there. But I seen the plan there. It's going to be on the opposite side, right? So it's going to be towards the shop side.
Correct,
There's
yeah.
a shop, an existing shop there, so it's going to
yeah.
be away from the actual residential area there, right?
Yeah, and in regards to the visibility concerns, actually the building, the city has a 15-foot visibility requirement, like clearance between 3 and 10 feet at driveway entrances and exits. Actually, that's why the building is it's not built within that. It's actually like kind of lopped off on that corner to provide for maximum visibility going out onto West Market. I think it's the 183? Yeah, whatever California highway it is, yeah.
Those are my questions. That's it.
Any questions, Commissioner Meeks?
Yeah, how many parking spaces will there be,
7 in total.
and the bays for the?
Yeah,
bays?
meeting the minimum requirement.
Okay. Do they have any plans for a sound wall?
The only proposed wall is on the southerly boundary, because that's a residential district, and it's mandated by the code that they build an 8-foot-high wall separating those two zoning districts, the mixed arterial frontage and the residential.
My other question was, what's the approximate distance to the apartment complex that's to the west, I guess?
The adjacent lot?
Yeah, it's over if the lot's like this, on the far end, there's an apartment complex on the other side down there.
I think the drive aisle has a minimum dimension of at least 24 feet, and then I don't know if there was a 3-foot landscape barrier in between. So I'm thinking at least 24 feet separating that one property line and the actual building itself.
And my last question is, how many days a week will they operate?
I believe it's Monday through Friday, and it's 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. It might, if it's beyond, I can look at the CUP real quick, hang on.
I was just wondering, because there's 1 or 2 in town that operate on Saturdays.
That might be a question on the actual days of the week for the applicant himself, yeah, or the property owner operator, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll chime in there. Condition number 2, the CUP indicates 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., but there are no days, so that's 7 days a week. 7 days a week? Without a exclusion, correct. That would be 7 days a week. The city does not have an ordinance specifically that limits days of operation for businesses unless specified in the CUP.
Any questions, Commissioner Purnell?
Just a quick question. So within that vicinity, my understanding, there's multiple vehicle repair shops already that exist in that block. Do we know how many and how close to that property? Has there ever been additional issues similar to this one? Because it seems like that whole street has the vehicle rental place, there's a collision repair.
Yeah, I know the adjacent lot to the, if you're, I guess the adjacent lot, if you're looking from the street, it would be on the right-hand side. That's a major auto repair.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a non-conforming use or if that was gone through the conditional use permit process as well. But yes, there are there's one adjacent to it, yeah.
Do those facilities fall under the same like decibel restrictions as this one would potentially, or is this a more restrictive environment to function because it's adjacent to residential?
The zoning district itself has a maximum decibel level at 65. So I think that frontage along West Market Street, a lot of them are the same standard, 65. If it's a mixed arterial frontage, it's 65 decibels.
Thank you.
And I have no questions, so we're going to open up for public comment. Are there any comments from the public regarding this item?
That's for me.
Want to start? Okay, can we start with the applicant?
Okay.
Are you the applicant?
The applicant. I'm David Elliott. Commissioners, I have a wonderful client here, Mr. and Mrs. Terrazas, and I have bought tires for him so as long as I've been here in town. He's a wonderful worker here, grew up in this area, and this is his first time to be in business for himself. So he is, this is just a terrific situation for him. He bought this property quite some time ago, and it's a very small lot. Additionally, I have my project manager, David Dove, and my associate, Luz Salinas, who is an intern architect with my firm over the last 4 years, and she's just entering her last year for becoming an architect in college and then taking her master's. And so she's here to learn how the system works. So we welcome her as well. So we're in complete agreement with the staff report. We've worked very hard over a few years to get this to this point. And we really appreciate Bobby Latino and Fernando Risso with the engineering and over with Courtney's oversight. So we're in complete agreement with this. We've worked hard to get this to the point where a very narrow lot could be developed for anything, quite frankly. And some of the concerns that the person brought up had to do with noise. So the only noise that will be coming from this is an impact wrench changing a tire. And the impact wrenches that you're familiar with when you've seen your tires being changed is old stuff. Now there's electrical ones that are very quiet. So you're not going to hear a lot of noise with your tires being changed at this location. So the noise, we are required on the west line to have a sound wall, so that's there. But we have elected to do concrete and walls for the entire site. And the building itself is all concrete. So we're going to be absorbing the sound with way beyond what's required. Let's see, the other issue I think Commissioner Gutierrez had to do with the view of the lots. So when we have a 24-foot driveway and we're required to have a 15-foot angle. So any car coming up has an additional 15 feet to look either way. And that's been a requirement for as long as I've been around here. So the view shed has been worked carefully. The building has been reduced to being, there's no requirement for extra parking. We meet the parking requirement. And a lot of the tire stores do their tire changing on the outside on the site. In this case, they'll all be done on the interior, which is different. So I think we've made extra effort to make the tire changing something that's going to be very well done at this site.
Thank you. I think we had a question from Commissioner Rocamora.
Yes.
So I know, Mr. Terraza, this is your first, he said this is your first business, but I know you from the other tire shops. So
Right.
You're just manager of the other tire shops. So how many years experience do you have? 30 years. Do
you want him to come up?
Yes.
Come on up. I just found out recently about those impact wrenches too. So if you have some questions about that, he's got this great new product. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Terrazas.
My name is Rafael. I working for 30 years in tires, and right now all the tools is update. Right now you can use a battery or the new if you use a air guns, not making noise no more.
Well, I could speak on that too, because I'm a retired master tech of 26 years, so I know what you were talking about, how loud they were, and everything's changed. So
Yes.
the main concern is how loud they are and where you're working, because I also used to manage a tire shop also, so I'm familiar with that. But, so this is your first business on
Yes,
your own?
Yes.
Because you
yes,
work
and-
for the other company, I
Yes.
know. Because like I said, I've dealt with you before.
Yes.
Personally. I think, very glad that you're opening up your own business and seeing a new business starting here in Salinas.
Yes.
But thank you.
Did you have a question for the applicant, Commissioner Ruck?
Yes, I do, thank you. Or the planner, it says minor vehicle repair use. Is that strictly limited to a tire shop?
That's correct. This is just a tire shop, no other mechanical work's being done.
No oil change, no.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from the public regarding this item?
Do I get to speak?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this proceeding. It's my first time anything like this.
Can you speak into the microphone? Sorry.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with this proceeding, so I wasn't quite prepared with a presentation. I do have a couple prints I'd like to present, and for that area, the house in particular, my house, and how that's the view from my windows to the house, to the lot, and I want to see how that's going to be impacted. Now, I understand that they're professionals, and apparently even Mr. Latino has some experience with pneumatic tools. I own pneumatic tools. I own electric tools, and they all make noise. They work under the same principle. Electric, pneumatic, they work under the same principle. They hammer. They make noise. 65 decibels. Me and you talking right now, this is a little bit louder than 65 decibels. You have to hear what I'm saying? That's 65 decibels. That's a little louder than 65 decibels. I'm also a noise expert. Well, not expert, but I've been working with noise for many, many years. I'm an industrial maintenance person. I've worked for Smuckers for 13 years, for a water company for, 24 years. I've been in the industry. I know what equipment is. I know what noise is. Now, I don't know if you guys want to see these images, because I like to talk to them and see how my property is going to be impacted by this. Would you want me to walk them up
You
there?
can give them to the staff here.
Yeah, I can distribute them after the meeting.
Okay. There are two sets, identical sets. Now, the front property is only 3 feet away from the borderline or the property line. The rear two properties are right on the property line. I was actually had to comply with 30 years ago when I purchased the
Excuse me,
property.
your time has expired, so if you can wrap it up.
Okay, very reasonable. I totally oppose this. I need to see more of how this is going to impact my property. There are several other properties. I have this on right in the corner of Capitol and Market, which is the opposite corner where U-Haul is now. I dealt with that guy for over 30 years. Nothing but dump, junk. It was a mess. 2 blocks away on Capitol, there's a Market, and right across from the church, there's another dump of a repair shop. Pass on the opposite direction, there are 3 other
I'm
shops.
sorry, we'll have to cut it off because the comment's limited.
Well, yeah, limited, but there's too many issues.
All right, I understand. Thank you. Do we have any on Zoom? Or, sorry, is there any other? You
Can I
you
rebut?
can't speak again.
I can't speak again?
No.
Okay.
Are there any other comments from the audience in person? Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom?
No Zoom attendees have raised their hand.
Okay, and then we'll move on to, for the commissioners, are there any additional questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Rocamora?
Yeah, so getting to his question, the resident, you said there was going to be a sound wall? Was there a sound wall on there? No? It was just a regular
There's
wall?
required wall in between the residential district and the mixed arterial frontage
Well, he's
district.
talking about here, no, yeah. Okay, so there is no wall on the side?
Would it be possible to go back to the PowerPoint and show the site plan, and Bobby could walk us through the site improvements?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it looks like they're proposing a 6-foot-high wall along the easterly and the westerly property, and the building itself will abut the other property line, so the whole extent of the property will have a wall.
Can you use the laser to identify?
Oh,
the-
yeah, let me try to
Yes.
find a plan.
Locations for the audience?
Yeah. So right along here, there'll be a 6-foot-high wall. This is the required 8-foot-high wall, and then along right here, all the way to the building line, will be a 6-foot-high wall. Can't see it clearly, but it says 6-foot-high wall. Then the building itself will abut the property line, creating the other sound barrier. And I believe, I don't know how tall the building is, but
Bobby, can you do the same thing on this screen for those who couldn't see it?
yeah. Right along here is going to be a proposed 6-foot-high wall. And then this is the required 8-foot-high wall. This is the residential district. And then on the northerly, this is a 6-foot-high wall until you meet the building, corner of the building, which is built along the property line, which will be the other sound barrier. So the entire property either has a wall or a building adjacent to it.
Which wall is parallel to the residential property?
This one in the rear, right here. So this would be your westerly property line, technically.
And the resident, your property, his property, where is his property at? The very bottom. Okay. So his property, is the building facing his property? Or is the opening,
Yeah, I don't
that's?
know who.
I can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could point that out where the opening,
Is this your property or is it this one?
The property, my property is the one right there, the one
All right.
on the lower left, lower right, I'm sorry.
Right here?
No, up on top. You see what the highlight is? Right there. That's the corner, that's the bottom corner.
oh, okay.
If you go up all the way to the top, there, that's your yard, that's the property. The
Okay, so
pictures
it's
were
the
taken from
subject
house,
lot.
The windows on the
Yeah.
house.
So
Right here.
when we saw, sorry, we're kind of jumping on a turn here, but so when we were looking at the previous picture, you showed us the residential is at the bottom, commercial's at the top. So the building that they're building will be facing and open towards his house.
Oh, the bays? Yeah. They'll open towards it.
Okay, because I'm just thinking noise goes direct that way then, right towards his house.
But there's also a wall.
A wall and trees, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's proposed 6-foot-high wall right there as well.
Any other questions, Commissioner Rockamora?
No other questions?
Any questions, Commissioner Ruck?
I don't have any other questions.
Any questions, Commissioner Almanza Larios?
No, no questions.
Any questions, Commissioner Gutierrez?
So essentially, the resident, which is his property runs parallel to the lot, the proposed, he's either gonna be looking, when he looks out his windows, he's gonna be either looking at a cement wall or the bays, right? Kind of what, if I get it straight, if I got it right?
With the proposal, it'd be a wall.
A wall. You
Yeah.
said it's a 6-foot wall?
Yeah.
So the view of his house would be to that wall? Hmm.
There's a good reason why we oriented it that way, if you want to hear it.
That's just my question. I'm just processing some stuff.
Any questions, Commissioner Meeks?
How many days a week do you plan on operating?
7.
Full 7. I know it's most in town close after 6. They're not open on Sundays.
So this man needs to operate 7 days a week to make this business work. So, and there's no restrictions for us to do Sundays off or Saturdays off. So our request is 7 days a week from 7 in the morning till 6 at night. And that's how all the other places that would be in competition with him operate. There's a reason for that orientation, if you'd let me explain.
Please.
Okay, so when we had it surveyed, I had it surveyed a few years ago, the surveyor found that this gentleman's property is built on our property. If you look carefully, 1 foot of his building is on our property. So we have a couple of things. You can tear it down, or you can move it 5 feet, or we designed it to be on the opposite side of the property so he could maintain that. So if he wants to complain about it, we just have him remove his building. We're trying to work with him.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Purnell?
So 6 feet is not very high, so my understanding is even if you were to build a 6-foot high wall, it's not gonna obscure his view out of his window, right? They won't be staring at a concrete wall. You can still see over it.
I don't know where the window locations are to the residential unit in regards to the height of the wall.
Right. I don't have any more questions, so just, thank you.
So my question would be, what is the space between his building, if it's on their property, and then where the wall will be built?
I think that's a good question for the applicant, how that wall would be constructed through the house if it's on the property line. That would be an interesting answer, I would presume.
Do you mind?
Not at all. So when, as I said, when the survey found out that a portion of that building is built a foot on our property, then, and we're required to have a wall, a fence that is along that property, we're working with what's there. So there's a part, so we butt right into that building and come right around it. So he's actually on our property, and rather than having him move it, we just fencing right around it.
So what's the distance that you plan between your wall
I don't
and
think
his
there,
building?
where that portion is, probably there's no distance.
Okay, so he can't get around the back of his house then, or the side of his house?
Well, if you want us to remove the fence, you know, I guess he could with permission. We're trying to work with the guy. We never mentioned it to him, and we designed around it so we didn't have to deal with him moving his building.
Okay, I think that's a concern, because if he needs to do anything on the side of his house, how can he have anybody even get in there?
Well,
to
I'm
do
okay leaving
anything?
the fence out there if you are, so he can come on our property
Okay.
and we
Well,
can have
thank you
it.
for answering my question.
Okay, say again.
Thank you for answering my question. So I guess if there's any additional questions, we've kind of gone around. Otherwise, is there a motion?
I have a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Rocamora?
Yes.
Commissioner Rack?
Yes.
Commissioner Monzalarios?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yeah, that's all right.
Commissioner Meeks?
Yes.
Commissioner Purnell?
Yes.
Chairperson McKelvey Day?
I'm saying no. I don't feel comfortable with the outline of it, even though I'm probably going to be overruled here. So
Thank you. Motion passes.
So the motion passes. Conditional use permit 2022-053, a request to construct a 1,642 square foot minor vehicle repair building with an alternative means of compliance for landscaping located at 219 West Market Street in the MAF Mixed Arterial Frontage Zoning District. The Planning Commission has just approved the request for a conditional use permit, which cannot be issued for 10 days. During this 10-day period, any person having standing to do so under the law who is aggrieved by this action or decision may file an appeal with the Community Development Department located at 65 West Alisal Street. Okay, we're on to other business. General Plan Steering Committee update. I believe we don't have an update at this time. We will be hearing soon when they're going to resume that because they're in the middle of some zoning updates.
Yes, so as the Planning Commission is aware, we held our joint study session with the City Council last Tuesday. Based on the public comment received, feedback from both the Commission and Council, we will be finalizing a public review draft, which we anticipate will be released end of July, early August. And after we have the public review draft, we will be reconvening to continue to review and receive comments on the document.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any follow-up reports?
No, not at this time.
Future agenda items?
Right now, there is nothing in the line right now, so that would be a no.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners?
Yeah.
No questions.
I have a question. Can I ask a question of Courtney? Mr. Grossman?
Certainly.
When do you think we're going to see some tentative maps come in?
There are a number of tentative maps in process. You may recall from last week, we have 3,500 some odd lots that are in process, about 5,000 dwelling units, if I'm not mistaken, rough numbers. And 3 of the maps were recently reviewed for completeness last week. So we anticipate resubmittals with those 3 maps. And I believe the next step will be what we call, or what the state calls through SB 330, a consistency review. And that will probably take a little bit more time, but eventually, yes, these maps will be coming and flowing through the Traffic Commission, Housing Land Use, Planning Commission, and Council.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question or two. My first question is about the previous thing on the agenda today. You received that in March? They came to your office?
So Commissioner, we just closed the public hearing on that, so I think.
I'm not public hearing, it's a question about when they received it, because I'm wondering why it takes so long for something to go to the Planning Commission, or Planning Department, and then to come here. And so many times we hear, we got to decide on this today.
Yeah, no, I understand that. With respect to that item, because we just closed the public hearing, I would recommend that rather than having that discussion now, that you direct that offline to Courtney or to Lisa. But if your question is generally the process or the timeline for things to get through planning and to the commission, that's a different question.
Can we make that for next agenda next time?
Sure, we will add that to the list.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next regular Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for July 2nd. Hope if we have anything that does come in, but who will be able to attend if we do? You can do a raise of hands.
July 2nd, yeah.
All right, and with that, meeting is adjourned.